Getting ready for bed is not an activity that the Doctor finds themselves doing often. They don't have to sleep as much as their human companions or stowaways, or as much as anyone else in the galaxy. Even compared to other Time Lords, they have a terribly unpredictable sleep schedule. Their sense of adventure is unlike anyone else's, and that often leads to an exodus or two instead of sleep. Some people have midnight snacks, the Doctor has midnight crusades. But on the rare occasion, the Doctor can find himself exhausted and actually wanting to sleep. Usually after losing someone, or a huge invasion. Tonight is one of those nights. There are many TARDIS bedrooms that the Doctor finds himself comfortable sleeping within sometimes. Often it depends on how they feel. Quite often they find themselves just napping in the console room. One of the many reasons why the recently added sofa was a great addition, they thought to themselves. The Doctor delicately removes their slightly damaged burgundy red coat and places it on a hanger amongst their other clothes. Some of their clothes are garish, and some are minimalistic, and some are war-torn. This incarnation tends to wear what makes them happy. A variety of unique outfits, rather than sticking to one outfit, like the majority of their other selves. This incarnation does have a personal favourite though, but after witnessing the events that occurred earlier in the day, they may retire it. The Doctor looks at one of these war-torn outfits, a reminder of a battle from long ago. They fixate on it for a while, before closing the cupboard and looking back towards their bed. They proceed in making their bed. The bed was designed by Venusians, a gift from them after introducing them to the Aikido that the Doctor would go on to learn earlier on in their life. The Doctor remembers the nuns that helped them out that day. They got all the credit, naturally. The Doctor looks around at the bedroom. The roundels on the walls are a dark yellow with a grey background. There is no ceiling, or at least a concept of a ceiling, but instead a projection of several galaxies, surrounded by exploding stars. A projection that the Doctor would look at for a good 10 minutes before turning it off. The room is now almost pitch black, with the exception of a few lights. The Doctor lies on one side and thinks about their most recent adventure. Not one that anyone would want to willingly think about. Losing someone important. But that was one of the many burdens they carry. Burdens that love to plague them as they try to fall asleep. One of the many reasons they try to avoid it as much as they can. The land of dreams and nightmares is often where one puts themselves on trial the most. There was once a time in which they used to dream about home the most. Much like most people, but not anymore. Those dreams appear to have faded away. The Doctor adjusts himself, but something feels wrong. Perhaps a bit of cosmic angst, they thought to themselves, before trying once again to sleep. Continuing to fail, the Doctor sits up and picks up a book. Before opening the book, they realise that their left hand is slightly shaking. They look in the mirror, and for a brief second, they stop completely. They jolt to the side as if they're waking up from some sort of trance and look down. They freeze once again. They jolt again after around 2 minutes of staring. They now look towards the empty void above them, staring once again with no movement. Not even breathing, but the Doctor doesn't realise they aren't. They begin to question what is happening. They try to lift themselves from their bed, but the moment they stand, their legs begin to shake, and the Doctor swiftly jolts themselves back towards the bed. They're afraid. Something doesn't feel right, and they don't know what or why. They hate that. They fear that. They're lost in that feeling. They feel their chest. Their hearts are beating slightly faster than usual. Their hearts are racing. It feels as if they're racing each other. Nothing around them feels like it's present. The Doctor is locked looking at themselves in the mirror. A normal, ordinary, bog-standard, slightly dirty mirror. Their mind elsewhere, feeling as if they've left their own body. Such a terrifying experience. One that not even they can describe. Completely frozen and unable to function. They don't feel real. Don't feel as if they're in the room. They know they're looking at their own reflection, but their body is completely numb. Their hands are slightly shaking, and the person in the mirror no longer feels like the person who stands before it. The person staring into it, lost in it. The person in the mirror moves slightly, tilting their head normally, but the person standing before the mirror hasn't processed it yet, doesn't feel as if they are moving. The doctor's own reflection is now uncanny to them. A distinct part of them feels terrified of their own reflection. A reflection that now feels as if it doesn't belong to them. A reflection that seemingly moves on its own within the dark. Even though he knows that it's them moving, and their mind simply isn't processing it, knowing isn't everything. The doctor lets out a few tears. Their face is now completely red and their eyes are more bloodshot than ever. Their hands are completely numb and a distinct part of them feels as if they're going to pass out. But they don't want to put that to the test. They look towards the grandfather clock in the corner. How has an hour passed? They thought to themselves. It feels as if it's been 10 minutes, 20 minutes at most, but an hour? It feels as if they've lost that time. Not feeling that a time-sensitive being such as themselves is used to. They don't like it. Not one bit. The doctor's body feels numb, especially their arms and legs. A strange sensation. One that makes the doctor feel as if their hearts are about to stop, or something worse. Paranoia runs rampant within their mind. Inherently there is something ominous about the numbness. The doctor knows that deep down this numbness means nothing, but they can't help but focus on the heaviness within their stomach, and the dreadful feeling that burdens them. The doctor begins to realise that they've been forgetting to breathe, or at least, that's how it feels. The doctor has been in death-defying situations that are completely hopeless and terrifying. Situations in which they have died, or are about to die. They have been broken and rebuilt in so many different ways, but nothing will compare to this feeling. At least, not in this very moment. In those moments they at least felt real. They could at least function for the most part, even if they were having a breakdown at any point. The doctor is trying to theorise what could have caused such a still ongoing attack, but their mind is going nowhere. There is nowhere to go, because their head feels completely empty and yet so full. It feels like when your computer has no more memory and you can't use anything. The doctor doesn't have access to anything that allows them to function properly. Nothing feels right. Nothing feels real. For a brief moment they feel as if they're back in reality, and they use that moment to turn on the light. Never underestimate how the dark can make situations such as these more terrifying, especially when looking in the mirror. The doctor is now no longer terrified by their own reflection, but the thought that they were, at one point, torments them. The most afraid they feel they have ever been, and it was of their own reflection. The TARDIS tries to make a sound to almost comfort the doctor, to let them know that they aren't alone. And while they are thankful, they don't feel as if they can respond, for they are now staring into the distance, no longer moving once again. Empty, alone, afraid. They have to remember to breathe. They must. They know how to breathe, but knowing isn't everything. Every time they find themselves lingering on a moment, they find themselves lost in it. The good news is, they don't feel as if they are going to pass out, despite their body telling them they might. They definitely feel as if they won't, despite that. Possibly in spite of it. The feeling of giddiness they are enduring cannot be understated. The dramatic part of them feels as if this is death, but they know it isn't. The doctor knows death. The doctor has seen death, and felt it many times. This isn't death. The doctor knows they have to regain control, that they mustn't let these feelings control them, but once again, knowing isn't everything. They were half expecting the master to appear, saying their usual, Die, Doctor, you must die. Before cackling as they do, the Doctor begins to breathe more, gaining control over their senses. They stop, staring into the distance with no movement once again, their eyes fixating on the corner of the room and refusing to move. A few minutes pass that feel like a few seconds to the Doctor, and they lean on the wall. They are tempted to try and get to the console room, but that doesn't feel safe whatsoever. They are beginning to calm down, but the effects of such an attack leave them feeling vulnerable to an almost impossible degree. What if this were to happen during an invasion, or whilst someone's life is in their hands? They can't afford to do that, they thought to themselves. They can't lose anyone else. Not after today. They know they shouldn't think such thoughts. Such thoughts only make attacks like these worse. But the whole of reality often depends upon them. Not that they want it to. But what if they had an attack while facing the Gatekeeper? Or when they were fighting Golza? Countless other examples. Countless other what-ifs. What if the Doctor couldn't stop the soulless and corrupting nature of the being? That rampant haircutting droid. The Toy Maker. The cult of the Doctor. The Space Lords. N-Form. The Hoff. The Black Hole Gang. Because they're too busy having an attack. They can't have thoughts like that, the Doctor thought. They simply can't. What if they couldn't motivate and calm down Greg on the worst day of their life? Or be there to help Charlie when they needed them? Or Anders? So many more have relied upon the Doctor to be there for them in times of difficulty. What if they found themselves unable to help? All because of an attack? That's not true. None of this is true, the Doctor told themselves, repeating that again and again in their head. There was once a time in which they said, courage isn't just a matter of not being frightened, you know. It's being afraid and doing what you have to do anyway. The words of their former self brought them comfort. They even imagined it in that comforting voice of theirs. The Doctor doesn't want to be like any of their former selves. They want to go on their own journey, not any of their other selves' journeys. But if there was any one of their former selves they at least ever so slightly looked up to, it was that one. You can still do what you have to do and be afraid, Doctor, the Doctor told himself aloud. The words of another one of their prior selves began playing in their mind. People don't know their own strength. Mental health is tricky. It can be just as strong as you are. Like fighting your own shadow. You get tired and it doesn't. This distinct turn of phrase set off a distinct reminder in this current Doctor's mind. I can't face this alone, the Doctor whispers. As much as this Doctor doesn't like that Doctor, there was something about how that Doctor dealt with other people's mental health that resonated with their current predicament, and how they are handling it. The Doctor begins breathing slower once again. Both their hearts begin to normalise, no longer racing each other, beating at a considerably more normal pace. The Doctor closes their eyes and opens them once again, no longer staring at the corner or the mirror uncontrollably, no longer afraid of their own reflection, but still recovering from the attack. Still a bit dizzy, and they're still thinking on what just happened. It's over. I need help, old girl. I know you're listening. Thank you for comforting me and trying your best, the Doctor says while looking at the mirror once again. Perhaps I should give therapy a go, they say with a slight smile. They make their bed once again. Within their mind, they are slightly catastrophizing the thought of going to therapy, but knows it's what's best for them. After they wake up, naturally, the Doctor proceeds to finally fall asleep, dreaming of battles that never were, the daisiest daisies you could ever imagine, cities made of song, and the greatest stories never told.